Alright, a very good morning to Madam Farah and whoever is watching this video. So today we'll be presenting on our second assignment, which is related to principle of finance. And for this assignment, we will be explaining about the analysis of financial statement for both companies, which is the Top Glove Berhad and also the CarePlus Berhad. So with that said, I'll be passing to the next presenter, to Rafael, to introduce more about the two companies. Thank you.
A special good morning to Madam Farah. So I'll be going to talk about the background of the two companies. So the slides given, Bursa Malaysia is a frontline regulator of the Malaysian capital market. It has the duty to maintain fair and orderly markets in the securities derived that are traded through its facilities. So for our companies, we chose Top Glove and CarePlus Berhad. So Top Glove Corporation is a Malaysian rubber glove manufacturer who also specializes in face masks, dental gums, and other products. The company owns and operates in 50 manufacturing countries in Malaysia, Thailand, China, and Vietnam. We also have marketing offices in the United States, as well as Canada and China. In addition to that, TP Glove have been in business for quite a long time. That is to say, it was established since 1991 in Malaysia. And since then, it's been the world's largest manufacturer of face masks and gloves, holding up a market share to about 26%. Now, moving on to CarePlus Berhad. CarePlus Berhad CarePlus Group Berhad is one of the companies that was listed in the ACE market of Bursa Malaysia. Securities of Berhad on 5th December 2010. On 31st December 2021, the company transferred the CGB transferred the listing of its entire share capital to the main market of the ACE market of Bursa Securities. The company has been in the global business for about 30 years and is expanding its capacity to meet the growing demand of the market. Also, a little bit of addition to CarePlus Berhad. This company has also been in operation for quite a long time. It was established by the Companies Act, incorporated by the Companies Act in 1965 on 18 February as a private company. And since then, CarePlus Berhad is a fully owned subsidiary of the public listed company. Over the years, they built a market niche which has been based on product and quality and service, excellent service. Okay.
Hello, my name is Mohamed Imran. Okay, for my part is the SWOT analysis. First, we're going to talk about the Top Glove SWOT analysis. Is strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Okay, for the first Top Glove strength, is superior customer service. Okay, the four fundamental elements that form the foundation of Top Glove core customer experience strategy in the medical equipment and supply sector are personalization, simplification of complicated demands, fast response, and continual engagement. If is it too long, I will talk only 1 point for each analysis. Okay, next for the weaknesses. Okay, despite having significant strength, okay, any firm will also have its own weaknesses. Okay, the sluggish adoption of new communication channels is the first weakness of Top Glove. Okay, Top Glove is experimenting with new communication channels, despite the fact that its rivals are adopting like Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. For Top Glove Corp can deliver greater information about its medical equipment and supplies products and services with the aid of these new communication channels. Okay, now for the opportunity. Okay, every business needs to learn how to take opportunities into their advantages so that the business can be improved further. The first opportunity Top Glove Corp sees was the shift in consumer habits following COVID-19. Because of COVID-19 limits, consumer behavior has changed in the medical equipment and supply market. Once things return to normal, some of the behavior will endure. Okay, now for the threats, the last analysis for Top Glove. Threats are normal when doing business. The company needs to prepare every sort of ways to prevent the business from falling. High reliance on outside vendors is the first step. Due to its considerable reliance on outside suppliers, Top Glove Corp operations and delivery system are susceptible to disruption. Okay, that's all for Top Glove. Okay, now we'll go next to Care Plus SWOT analysis. Okay, for the strength of Care Plus, in doing business, strength is a must-have element to keep the business ongoing. Okay, effective research and development (R&D) is the first strength of Care Plus. Research and development operations account for a sizable portion of Care Plus Group's income due to its innovative cultures. As a result, Care Plus Group has maintained its lead in the market for medical equipment and supplies when it comes to the introduction of new products, providing top customer service using highly aggressive pricing techniques and providing excellent returns to shareholders. Okay, now for the for the weaknesses, weaknesses are normal in doing business. Okay, a high operating costs are the first point of weakness for Care Plus. In the market for medical equipment and supplies, Care Plus Group has significant operating costs in comparison to its rivals. This can be more difficult to maintain given the new nimble competitors who are leveraging leveraging technology to entice Care Plus Group's affluent customers. Then for the opportunities, automation in production is the first opportunity for Care Plus. The medical equipment and supply sector of Care Plus Group can benefit from the most recent technological advancement by improving its production and designing process. Okay, for the threats, facing threats in doing business cannot be escaped. It's normal in business. Yeah, there will always be threats that need to be faced so that the business can become even better. Okay, the first threat comes from growing worldwide competitiveness and margin pressure, along with the loss of its competitive advantage brought on by technology. Care Plus Group may see pressure on its margin from rising worldwide competition. Okay, that's all for SWOT analysis.
All right. Thank you so much, Imran, for explaining more detail about the SWOT analysis. Really appreciate it. So now I'm going to explain about the trend analysis of time series analysis for the first company, which is the Top Glove. So let me just begin with the liquids. You all know that we have current ratio and quick ratio on the screen. So for the Top Glove current ratio, at the year of 2020, Top Glove business has a slightly high current ratio, which is at 2.01 compared to 2021, which is only 1.98. This is because the current asset of the company in 2020 is 4,287,653 ringgit, lower than in 2021, which is 4,345,757. The current liabilities in 2020, which is 2,132,524, also lower than in the year of 2021, which is at 2,198,487. All right. So basically, for this current ratio is used to determine the liquidity of the business in the company. All right. So the second one is the quick ratio. According to the graph, the quick ratio in 2020 is slightly higher, which is 1.76 compared to 2021, which is 1.46. This is because the amount of inventory in 2020 is about 530,729. That is lower than in the 2021, which is 1,144,705. And for quick ratio, it's basically to examine the ability of the business to pay the bills. Right, next. All right, for the asset management ratio, as you can see, there is inventory turnover and total asset turnover. So for the inventory turnover ratio is the number of times a company has sold and replenished its inventory over a specific amount of time, right? So based on the graph, the inventory turnover for Top Glove in the year 2020 is 8.27, which is higher than the 2021, which is at 4.59, right? The cost of goods sold 2020 are roughly lower than the year of 2021, which is it's higher than the last year. And the inventory of the year 2020 is lower than the 2021. As a result, the inventory turnover in the year 2020 will be higher than the 2021. In general, the higher the ratio number, which is the year 2020, the better, as it most often indicates strong sales. A lower ratio can point to weak sales and decreasing market demand for the goods. All right, let's go to total asset turnover. So according to the based on graph, the total asset turnover in the year 2020, which is 0.83, is lower than the year of 2021, which is 1.67 only. This is because the total asset in 2021, which is at 8,705,964, is lower than the total asset in 2021, which is recorded as 9,782,424. All right. All right. The next one is the average collection period. Okay. The average collection period of generally more favorable than the higher one in 2020. Right. The low average collection period indicates the organization collects payment faster. This is because the account receivable in 2021, which is at 566,299, is lower than the 2020, which is at 798,805. Right. So the second one is receivable turnover. The receivable turnover in the year 2020 is at 28.89, which means 29 times the company have collected the account receivable from the debtors. In the year of 2020, the revenue of the company is at 16,361,443. That is higher than the year 2021, which is at 7,237,427. A thousand receivable turnover ratio in the year 2020 can indicate that the company collection of account receivable is efficient and that it has a high proportion of quality customers who pay their debts quickly. Right, next one. All right. Okay, let me explain about the profitability ratio. Okay, for profitability ratio, we have gross profit margin and operating profit margin. So the gross profit margin in the year of 2021 for Top Glove, which is at 11,102,700, is more than the gross profit in the year of 2020, which is 2,850,417. As a result, the gross profit margin in 2021 is much higher than the 2020, which is 67.86% compared to 39.38%. The revenue of 2021 is also higher, which is 16,361,443 compared to 2020, which is only at 7,237,417, right? So for the operating profit margin, the operating profit margin is based on the graph shows that 2021, which is at 61.33%, is higher than the 2020, which is 29.92%. The operating profit in 2020 is 2,165,551, which is lower than the 2021 than the amount of 10,133,813. The big amount operating profit and revenue will make the operating profit margin in 2021 higher than the 2020. All right. The net profit margin is usually calculated between the net profit for the financial year over the sales of the top 12 in a particular year. So based on the graph, it shows that in 2021 the net profit margin which is higher than the 2020 at 24.72%. The net profit of Top Glove in 2021 is about recorded as 7,823,992. That is higher compared to 2020, which is roughly about 1,788,830. Right. So for the return on asset, based on the graph, the return on asset in 2021, which is 79.98%, is higher than 2020, which is 20.55% only. The total asset in 2021 is the amount I've recorded as 9,782,424. It's also higher than 2020, which is 8,705,964. The amount of difference between the net profit and total asset in 2021 is lower than the 2020. As a result, the return on the asset in 2021 is higher compared to the 2020. Right. For return on equity. So based on this graph, return on equity in the year 2021 is much higher than 2020. The return of equity in 2021 is at 108.36%. That is more than the 100% because the amount of net profit, which is 7,823,992, is higher than the total equity, which is 7,220,160. The return equity in 2020 is 28.89%. That shows the amount of net profit, which is 1,788,830, is lower than the total equity, which is at 6,190,883. Okay, the last analysis for our Top Glove is leverage ratio, which is the first one I will touch on, the debt ratio. So basically, debt ratio means it's a relationship between a company's total debt and assets in the debt ratios. Right. So based on the graph, in the year 2020, debt ratio is 28.89% higher than 2021, which is 26.19%. In 2020, total liabilities of around 2,550,81 is lower than the 2021, which is at 2,562,264. So the low amount of total asset cannot cover up the liabilities despite the amount of debt being lower compared to 2021. This will cause a high debt ratio in 2020 that indicates that a company may be at risk of default on its loan if interest rates suddenly rise. Right. So for the time interest earned, Top Glove have been in 2021 has been earned about like 10,033,830 is higher compared to the 2021, which is only at 2,165,551. The final cost in 2021, which is at 4,187, is lower than the 2020, which is only at 34,399. In 2021, the difference between the amount of operating profit and finance cost is quite high compared to the difference in 2020. This will cause the times interest earned ratio in 2021 as 2397 times is far higher compared to 2020, which is only 65 times only. The result is number of that shows how many times a company could cover its interest charge earnings. Next one. All right, let me go through for the second company, which is the Careplus Berhad. So for the first one is liquidity ratio. Let me talk about the current ratio. So the current ratio, the graph above shows the current ratio of Careplus Group Berhad in 2020. It's at 1.28 ratio of 1 and recorded as 2.87 ratio 1 in 2021. It shows a liquidity ratio that measures Careplus Group Berhad's ability to pay in a short-term obligation. Therefore, in 2020, Careplus Berhad has a good current ratio because the company has more current assets to cover the liabilities, while in 2021, the current ratio greater than 2.1 may indicate the company isn't investing in short-term asset efficiently, right? So for the quick ratio, based on the graph, the quick ratio for Careplus Berhad in the year 2020 stated as 0.95 ratio of 1, where it means the company doesn't have enough asset to meet all the short-term obligation. On the other hand, in 2021, the quick ratio is 2.10 ratio of 1, where it's higher than the previous year. The quick ratio is better in the year 1 compared to the year 2020. So basically, it means that year 2021 has a higher quick ratio compared to 2020, which proves that at year 2021, it has a better number. So let me go through the asset management ratio. All right. So the asset management ratio that So the asset management ratio, the first one is inventory turnover. The Careplus Berhad has a higher inventory turnover ratio in the year 2020 at 6.32 ratio of 1, while in the year 2021 it slightly dropped to 6.18 ratio 1 in this case. Careplus has organized and managed the stock efficiently for both years, but in the year 2020, the company has done a better stock compared to year 2021. Total asset turnover, both 2020 and 2021, the Careplus Berhad has achieved 1.15 ratio of 1 and 1.08 ratio of 1, respectfully for the company total asset turnover, right? Therefore, Careplus Berhad has generated enough revenue for these 2 years as both years are greater than 1. So for the asset management ratio, average collection period, according to the graph, Careplus Berhad is able to collect or receive its payment owed by the customer within 49 days in the year 2020, while the year in 2021, the company just took 23 days only of the customer. With that said, CarePlus took a shorter time to collect the own paid by in 2021 compared to year 2020. Receivable turnover based on the graph, CarePlus Berhad has a higher receivable turnover in 2021 at 16.49 ratio 1, while 7.47 ratio 1 for the year of 2020. Thus, in 2021, the CarePlus Berhad able to collect its average account receivable balance more than the year 2020. Alright, for the next analysis is profitability ratio. Gross profit margin is calculated by subtracting direct expenses or cost of goods sold from the net sales. Right, that's the formula. So therefore, the CarePlus Berhad is more efficient and financially stable in operation in 2021 compared to 2020. This shows in the year 2021, CarePlus Berhad has utilized its raw material and direct labor very well. And the second one is operating profit margin. The CarePlus Berhad has achieved 31% of operating profit margin in 2020, while in 2021 is at 39%. Therefore, both years are considered as an average. This is because ideally companies want an operating margin of 15% higher or 15%. Next. Right, for net profit margin, the ratio of net profit, also known as a net income, to total sales stated as a percentage is known as the net profit margin. Therefore, the highest net profit margin stated for CarePlus Berhad is at 31.55% in 2021, while 2020 is only recorded as 25.75%. So it clearly shows that 2021 has a higher net profit margin compared to 2020. Return on asset, the higher the return, the more productive and efficient management is in utilizing economic resources. The return on asset is calculated as net income divided by total asset and multiply 100. Therefore, the CarePlus Berhad in 2020 recorded as 27.69%, while 2021 is recorded quite higher, which is at 36.33%, whereas it indicates that in 2021, CarePlus able to utilize the economic resources more effectively and more productively than the year 2020. All right, for the gross. Right, for return on equity. So the management of a company is more effective at generating income and growth from its equity financing, the higher the return on equity. Therefore, the return on equity for CarePlus Berhad in 2020 is 46.67%, but in 2021 it slightly dropped to 45.49%. In this case, CarePlus Berhad managed to generate the income and growth from equity more in 2020 compared to year 2021. All right, for leverage ratio. Okay, for debt ratio, based on the graph, CarePlus Berhad has a high debt ratio in 2020 at 40.66 compared to the year of 2020 at only 20.12%. Thus, in 2020, the company is considered to be highly leveraged, which means the most of the assets are financed through debt, not equity. All right. So for time interest earning, based on the graph, CarePlus has actually recorded a higher receivable turnover in 2021 at 16.49 ratio of 1, while in the year of 2020, it only recorded 7.47 ratio of 1. Okay. In 2021, the CarePlus Berhad is able to collect its average accounts receivable balance more than the year 2020, as you can see on the graph on the calculation. All right, thank you so much, and I'll pass it to the next presenter on the cross-section analysis.
Thank you, my friend Harvin. Now I will present the cross-section of the between two companies in 2021, which is a Top Glove and also the CarePlus company. So first one is the liquidity ratio based on the slide that I produced. The current ratio, firstly, number one. So in the year 2021, CarePlus business has a slightly high current, slightly compared to the Top Glove, which is 1.98 that you can see on the slide. So the Top Glove have a 1.98. For the CarePlus is 2.87 because the current liability of the Top Glove have a 2,188 and 487 compared to CarePlus that have much more better. It's 249 million, a huge money. So the next one is a quick ratio. So CarePlus also have big amount of current asset. So if we compare to the CarePlus and also the Top Glove, these two companies have the CarePlus have a huge money compared to the Top Glove. So this will cause the quick ratio of the CarePlus have higher than the Top Glove. So next one is the asset management ratio, which is the inventory turnover. So based on the slide, also CarePlus have highest than the Top Glove. This is because the goods sold or COGS of CarePlus is 415,472,223,723, while in Top Glove only have a 5,259,356. So we calculate in the completion of analysis, we managed to see that CarePlus are higher than the Top Glove. So the receivable turnover. So receivable turnover is which the company collect amount receivable from the debtor. So in Top Glove, they're 29 times, where the CarePlus is only like we run off is 17 times. So for the next one is the average collection period. So this based on the graph, CarePlus that had 23 days compared to Top Glove is 13 days. Why? Because a lower average collection period in Top Glove is generally more favorable than a higher one in 2021. A lower average collection period indicates the organization collects payment faster. So in this case, Top Glove is much better than the CarePlus. For the total asset turnover, Top Glove are also highest than the CarePlus in 1.67 compared to 1.15 in the CarePlus. So next I will touch on the leverage ratio. Debt ratio. So basically, we can see the Top Glove has high debt ratio compared to the K Plus. We can see on the graph that we produced on the report. The Top Glove, the K Plus, the total liabilities 122 million, much 122 million compared to the Top Glove, which only have a 2 million. This huge amount of total asset and total liability in K Plus will cause the ratio of debt is not quite high in the Top Glove. So for the interest time ratio, we can see Top Glove is higher compared to the K Plus. Why? Because the finance cost in Top Glove, which is only 4,187, is lower than K Plus. They're huge, which is a 2 million. 322,238, and this in the conclusion will cause the Top Glove have a highest ratio compared to the K Plus. So okay, next is done for the profitability for the GPM, gross profit margin. So for the gross profit margin, of course the Top Glove is higher than K Plus because the revenue of the K Plus is much more higher than the Top Glove. For the OPM, operating profit margin, also Top Glove is higher, also because of the revenue and the operating profit of the K Plus is much higher than Top Glove. And when we do a calculation, we find out that the ratio of the Top Glove is much higher than the K Plus. For the net profit margin, Top Glove also higher compared to K Plus because the high amount of revenue, of course, when we calculate the high amount of revenue in K Plus, which is 700 more million compared to the Top Glove, only have the lower digit. So for the return on asset, Top Glove has higher number compared to the K Plus, which is 79.98 compared to 36.33. The difference of net profit and total asset in Top Glove is lower than K Plus. So when we calculate and divide these two in the calculation, we find out the Top Glove has higher ratio compared to the K Plus. Next one is the return on equity. So Top Glove have a more higher than 108%, more than 100%, because the amount of net profit is 7 million. It's much higher than total equity that will result the 108.
Okay, let's go to the final part, which is a conclusion and also recommendation. So in conclusion, we learn of the ratio analysis of the financial statement. We calculate, we do analysis on the Bursa, we go to Bursa, and we also learn how to find out the annual report of the K Plus and also Top Glove. And also we learn how to calculate the financial statement of analysis in the chapter in the finance, principle of finance topic. So this will give our knowledge. It's also important for the company to analyze the financial position, the analysis of financial statement, the liquidity, profitability, risk, softment, and also the effectiveness of the operation. So we also in the assignment we have learned about two big company, learn about the SWOT analysis of the top corporation, also K Plus. So in the statistic as of 2019, Malaysia is the 6th largest producer and exporter of natural rubber. The leader in the production and export of the rubber production is the largest consumer of natural rubber and the world largest producers of rubber glove. That's why we present just now that there are huge million or 100 million of the amount of the company asset, liability, and also the equity. So the last part is the recommendation. The recommendation, first one is Top Glove Corporation is the better to invest based on our opinion because of many factors. Despite having higher net profit asset, they prove why they need to choose by calculating the ratio analysis compared to the K Plus. The return on equity in the Top Glove is much higher than K Plus. So that's why we choose the Top Glove. And also the return of equity in Top Glove is 108.36%. That is more than 100% that compared to the K Plus. And also the profit margin, return on asset, return on equity, return on capital employed, and gross margin ratio, all example of profitability ratio. By looking on this area, we are confident that Top Glove Corporation is good to invest. I think that's all from us. Thank you very much to Madam, and hopefully we can meet in the future. From me, Osama Haikal, Havrin, Rafael, and also Imran. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.